Hi everyone, Nexius here, and today I want to bring you guys a quick discussion regarding the ending of Legion going into the start of Battle for Azeroth. So I want to try and talk as little as possible during the cinematic, but I do want to save a lot of time because, like, for example, I don't want to sit here, watch the whole cinematic, and then I go over the cinematic a whole second time, which just eats up a lot of video time, and I don't want to have you guys sit here, bored. So I'll try and talk a little bit during the cinematic, but not too much. And then afterwards, we'll kind of give a bit of a discussion in regards to how this pairs into the future of the next expansion and how that plays out as well. Because as I'm sure a lot of you know, Battle for Azeroth is the next expansion. So how does this cinematic exactly pair into going towards that expansion? And I do have some of the answers for that. So after this cinematic preview here, I'll kind of give my thoughts on it and then kind of give a little bit of information on that as well. Now, of course, as always, I do very much look forward to you guys commenting, discussing the cinematic, as well as the, travel from here to the next expansion. Anything you guys want to talk about, I love discussing things with you guys, so don't be afraid to leave a comment down below. As for that, let's get straight to the cinematics here. So this is the Prefight Cinematic. This is where you first meet Argus the Unmaker, and this is not after you defeat him.
That which you have stolen will be your undoing. Rise, Argus. Rise, my broken world.
Mortals, the time has come to fight for the fate of your world.
Man, that is just really cool. Actually getting to see, the Titans. Obviously, that's not Sargeras. Sargeras comes up in this cinematic here. So, overall, it's just really, really cool to see a lot of different aspects in this expansion. At least in this ending aspect of the expansion. We get to see Sargeras, we get to see the Titans, we actually get to finally finish off the Legion. As you guys I'm sure know, War of the Ancients was the first Legion invasion 10,000 years ago. We had the second invasion, which was in Warcraft 3, also known as the Third War. Then World of Warcraft came out, and now we have this invasion as well. Actually, technically kind of the Burning Crusade with Outland, but not 100% there, I guess, if you want to count that one, with Outland there as well, where we had the portal open, and then we have to go through, deal with a lot of the Legion there. But for the most part, this is what I would consider the final part of the Legion. I will be surprised if we see anything more in regards to Sargeras or any of the Legion anymore after this. So I guess we'll see in the future, but it's kind of like the Scourge in a sense with Wrath of the Lich King. The Scourge is still there, actually, something could always happen. But, like, right now, it doesn't 100% look like that, since we have Bolvar still controlling it and everything. But it's like the ending of Wrath of the Lich King when Arthas finally dies. It's like turning a whole new chapter of a particular villain. You no longer really have the Scourge to worry about. Now, that could always change, of course, but going from Arthas to Bolvar. To me, back when that first happened, when I first saw that Arthas cinematic, to me, it felt like the Scourge is finally done. It's finally over. We can move to something else now. And then that's when we got Deathwing and then Miss Pandaria and whatnot. So I kind of feel the same way here, where it's like we're finally 100% done with the Legion. Sargeras is done. We don't have to, expect anything else because, like Warcraft 3, we knew we did not take care of the main guys. So it was more like a resting period. Doesn't really feel like that here. But anyway, enough talking here. Let's get straight to the next cinematic.
You have done well, mortals.
It is time.
We must gather our strength. Return home, children of Azeroth.
Illidan, we've done all we can.
Every choice, every sacrifice has led me to this moment. To face him once again.
You are not coming with us.
The hunter is nothing without the hunt.
Did you not see this fate, prophet?
Fate. Our survival was never in fate's hands.
Huh. That smirk right there from Illidan, because he knows,
Light be with you, Illidan Stormwraith.
he knows Velen finally learned his lesson from, Argus.
Brother, your crusade is over!
Okay, so I really did not want to talk during that, so that's why I was like really quiet afterwards. Just a few things I want to point out really quickly here. So let's try and find it here. I really liked this part here. It's like right here. You can see like Velen smirking and Illidan smirks back. I really like this because it kind of points towards the previous cinematic when we first went to Argus. We had that cinematic where Velen was like talking about fate and whatnot, and Illidan was basically saying we forge our own destiny, we make our own decisions. It's up to us, not fate. We have control over our own destiny, essentially. So in the cinematic, it shows that Velen has actually understood that. In other words, his character development. Because Velen is a prophet, right? He always sees the future, whatever. He's always bent on fate. And you can see here with the character development that Velen is starting to change his opinions on things. And that little exchange there between Illidan and Velen really shows that. And it's a really cool thing to see there. And honestly, in regards to Illidan, I'm really happy that he's not sticking around. Because there's this habit here. I'm sure you guys have heard this saying before. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Now, what a villain is very different in many different ways. So, for example, villain could just mean bad guy. That doesn't mean Illidan could be a bad guy. What it could also mean, at least to me, is basically he could just become a very annoying hero. So a lot of people might like Illidan right now. And if he was to stay around for Battle for Azeroth and he suddenly fights for the Alliance and all that different stuff, who knows what kind of character he could turn into. He could turn into a pain in the ass that no one likes anymore. I know some people say, for example, don't like Jaina anymore, or Anduin, or let's look at Anduin right now. A lot of people hated Anduin, and now all of a sudden, some people kind of like him a little bit more now, ever since Legion. But before Legion, like, say, for example, Mists of Pandaria, a lot of people were not a fan of Anduin. So, like, Anduin has also had a lot of character development. So it's very important stuff like that, where you don't want to keep bringing heroes back, you don't want to keep them around too long, because otherwise something bad might happen, people will get tired of them, all that different stuff. When Illidan was first being resurrected back, I was not a fan at all. Like, when we saw that Legion cinematic where Gul'dan went up to his prison, I was not a fan at all. Just leave the characters dead. Because for me personally, I am not a fan when Blizzard, we'll just use Blizzard specifically here since this is a Blizzard game, but when people, or Blizzard here, brings back heroes constantly and villains constantly, it gets really old and boring. Just let the chapter finish. If they were to bring Arthas back, for example, I would be pissed off, just because, you know, the way he ended was perfectly fine to me. I love the way he ended. If he were to suddenly come back and do his thing again, I would not be happy about that personally. So just like, that's what I like about this, is at least Illidan didn't become very annoying. He was a little bit throughout Legion, but for the most part, I liked him during the Argus patch and Antorus here. So I would love to just see Illidan finally be done forever now. We don't see him again. It's just really nice. So anyway, enough about that. I want to talk a little bit about Sargeras. That's pretty cool there. I like how he comes out of the clouds. There's Sargeras right there. He kind of reminds me of a satyr. You know those night elf demons, the satyrs from like Dire Maul and Emerald Nightmare. He totally looks like one to me. It looks pretty cool, actually. I really like that. Of course, the 3 there. Khadgar, surprisingly, hasn't been doing a whole lot in the later aspects of this expansion. We saw him at the beginning, especially in the beginning. We saw him sort of in Karazhan, and then all of a sudden, you know, he got replaced. So I'm also really glad about that, because Khadgar isn't shown everywhere, because honestly, I love Khadgar. His dad jokes makes him very likable to me, but in general, if he sticks around and he's involved in everything, it gets pretty annoying. So I like the balance between Khadgar and the other heroes or main characters in this expansion. I think Khadgar played a really great role. He started off the beginning getting everybody in order, and then once things were in order, he kind of like took a step back. And that's what I really like about Khadgar currently in the storyline. We don't see him too much. He kind of appears here and there. But at the beginning of the expansion, he was getting everybody together. The Alliance and the Horde, you know, learning more about the Guardian and stuff like that, where he went back to Karazhan. He went to Maiev, and that's where you meet Khadgar as a demon hunter at the end of your questing zone. So, like, there were a lot of important aspects that Khadgar took care of. He also took care of moving Dalaran, moving the main force onto the Isles. Like, he did a lot of big stuff at the beginning of the expansion. And then, after everything was set in order, he took a step back and let everyone else play their role. And that's what I really like about Khadgar as a character right now. Is like, I just don't like it when a character takes up all of the spotlight. And I think Khadgar was done almost perfectly in this expansion, personally, in my opinion. So, just a quick thing there, just because I saw Khadgar. One other thing. I know it's a game, but I think it's really funny that this sword did not destroy the planet. How did that not destroy the planet? I guess because it did not fully go in, as you can see. I'm expecting a joke there from the way I said that, but you can see here, like, it didn't go entirely into the planet to destroy it, so I don't know if that's related to what's going on with that. I just think it's kind of funny, because something like that you would think would destroy the planet, but obviously not. Silithus, though, on the other hand, is just gone. Now, one other thing I'm curious about here is, what exactly is Illidan doing here? Because they don't show what exactly happens. Does he just fight Sargeras one-on-one? Or does he fight him with the Pantheon? Or, like, what is he doing? Like, he's just sitting here prepared for Sargeras, right? So I'm kind of curious to, what exactly is this fight? Like, what is this? Does he just 1v1 him and then he kills Sargeras? I have no idea. So I'm kind of curious about that, personally. I don't know if that's going to end up in a book or something, but that's what I have very curious. I want to know, why is Illidan still here, ready to finish off Sargeras? Like, how is that going to play out? Because we don't see it in the cinematic. One other thing I want to mention real quick here before I'm done with this review is the sword. So this is how Battle for Azeroth starts out, for those of you that are not aware. The way they kind of explained it was just like Warcraft, or not Warcraft 3, World of Warcraft. You know how at the end of Warcraft 3, all of the races were allied together to fight the Legion? And then at the beginning of World of Warcraft, in the cinematic intro, it says 4 years have passed, and now the bonds of the allies have been shattering. Well, the reason why is because of resources. So the Horde, for example, really needs lumber, food, and all that different stuff. So that's why they are still in Ashenvale chopping down trees. And that kind of started a war there between the Orcs and the Night Elves, and that's why we have Warsong Gulch as a battleground. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's very similar to what's going to happen in the next expansion. What's going to happen is Sargeras' sword goes into Silithus here, and it makes the planet bleed. And the form of bleeding that Azeroth does is a bunch of like minerals and resources come up, and they're called Azerite, if I remember correctly from BlizzCon, Azerite. So everyone wants to get their powers on Azerite because it's extremely powerful as a resource. So once again, we have the two factions allied currently, and they will be fighting over Azerite for collecting resources. And of course, you know, that's going to spark up some tension between the two. So it's going to be like a Cold War essentially, and then that's how Battle for Azeroth breaks up. Is you already have a rocky relationship between Gen and Sylvanas, for example. So because of that, you know, it's already very, very thin. With the Legion destroyed, and it's kind of like a break right now, you know, no one's really thinking about the Legion anymore, to where we have to ally together out of necessity. So now that that's gone, now it's back to normal life, and now, you know, that's going to start the war with the resources and everything. So that's basically how next expansion is starting up. It's going to be based off the already current tension between some of the races like Sylvanas and the Forsaken versus Gen and the Worgen, for example. Of course, Sylvanas, I don't know if you guys read like the part of the novel that was leaked like a month ago. Just before BlizzCon, we had a small leak there where Sylvanas was talking to her buddy. I can't remember his name. It's like Bladebane or something. I can't remember his name, but you know, that archer that's with him, or with her. I can't remember his name. Why is that out of my mind? But anyway, she says to him that her ultimate goal is Stormwind. So she already has the thoughts of taking out the Alliance in some kind of way. And this is before fighting over things like Azerite. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But overall, I really liked the cinematic. We finally got to see Sargeras. We finally got to see the Titans and the Pantheon. I always think about Elgalon the Observer from Ulduar. Like, every time I think about Titans, I think about him because that was like one of the closest we got in terms of like Titans themselves. Elgalon was like the messenger between them, so that's really cool. But overall, I'll leave it there. I think I've been commentating long enough here. Of course, leave your thoughts down below. What do you think about the cinematic? What do you want to see? What's your favorite thing about the cinematic? What are you looking forward to with BFA, all that different stuff? Anything you want to talk about related to this video, leave a comment down below. I always respond as best I can, and I just enjoy discussing things. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Hopefully it's not too long for your liking, but overall, I enjoyed it very much. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on my next video.